thank you so much for coming back and watching another episode this week. Recently, I've been doing a little bit of reminiscing. I've been thinking back to my childhood days. Specifically, I've been thinking back to my days of junior high and high school when I was getting very interested in computers. At the time, we were using Apple IIs, Apple computers. Yes, I'm going to get into that war of Apple versus everything else. I've been an Apple fan my whole life. I've loved Apple. I've loved what Apple represents as far as their goals for producing a superior product. And so, yeah, I give that away. And Apple is what really drove me into getting into technology and being very analytical and very logical like I am. And it's helped me with my career and helped me to just want to continue to stay interested in technology. When I was a kid, we had Apple IIs. So my mom bought an Apple IIe, and eventually I bought an Apple IIc. And my very first job, I actually went and found my scrapbook. Yes, I have my scrapbook from the 1980s. Yes, I just dated myself. I actually found my photos for my first big job that I had, where I was a salesman. I was selling Apple computers. And it was probably one of the most fun jobs I ever had. I actually, within a very short period of time, we had a promotion where we had a reduced price on the computers and they were going to go up. And so we had a big promotion to tell people, buy them now before they go up. They were going to go up a couple $100. I sold $40,000 worth of computers within a 3-month time frame. And I was very proud of that and I was 17 and it was a very big deal for me. So where am I going with this? So like I said, Apple has been a driving force in my life. And even back then, I knew a little bit about Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, as you know, is the co-creator of Apple computers, actually known as Apple now. And he was a big name back in the 80s. He developed the Macintosh. He, of course, ran the company. But he also went through a very bad period. In 1985, he was fired from his own company by the board of directors. The people that he hired, the people he brought in. He was fired. Who fires the creator of the company? Recently, I took the opportunity in my reminiscing to go back and read the biography of Steve Jobs written by Walter Isaacson. And I was very curious about the man and wanted to understand more about him and, the creation of Apple, but him in general. And yeah, I found he had a lot of issues that I didn't quite understand. I knew and heard some of them, but yeah, he had issues. He had real issues. He probably could have used some help. but there are a few things that I picked out from the book and from studying his, listening to his biography. Actually, I listened to the book. A few things that I picked up on. And one of the things that I want to share is from his 2005 commencement address at Stanford University. And I want to read this part to you because it addresses the 2005 firing. Afterwards, he said, "I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from Silicon Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I had been rejected, but I was still in love, and so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life." Boy, did he ever enter a creative period of his life. He left Apple and immediately started the company Next. And Next is eventually, about 13 years later, 12, 13 years later, the company that Apple bought as they brought him back on as the CEO eventually. But that's the base for everything we have for the Mac OS, for the iPhone, for the iPad, for that operating system. That is where that creativeness came from, and it gives us what we have, that renaissance Apple has had today, that we still use today. In fact, one of the things that happened when he had Next, he had not put out the computer yet. He had a big promotional announcement like he did with Apple later on, and he did with Apple before, but he wanted to show off this new computer that wasn't out yet. He didn't have anything to show anybody. And so somebody came up to him and asked him, why is this thing so far behind? Why are you promoting this when it hasn't even been finished yet? Why is this so far behind? And he replied back, said, what do you mean behind? This thing's 5 years ahead of its time. He was a futurist. He thought about what was going to be best in the future. He went on to create Next, and then he also went on to create something else that is probably one of the most memorable things that we know today, which is Pixar. He was involved. He bought from Lucasfilm the rights, the people, and the technology for animation, and he helped generate the first movie, Toy Story, and several movies on through the next 15 years. He was the genius behind that. And then, of course, he came back to Apple and he brought us the new inventions that came about, the new iMac, the new iPhone, the iPod before that. All of these things, it gave him, by leaving Apple, it gave him a chance to have new purpose and a new way of thinking, to be able to have that moment that really helped him to realize there's more. He can learn from his failure, and he can take that and do more with it and actually grow from it. I want to share a quote from Benjamin Hardy about this. In a matter of speaking, Steve Jobs kind of went through a trauma. He lost his company, his baby, the thing that he worked so hard to create. He lost it. He was traumatized from this. And this trauma left him in a moment, like I said from his speech, of what do I do for several months? What now? And I want to quote Benjamin Hardy. He talks about this, and he says, when traumatized, you start thinking in black and white. Instead of seeing different perspectives and contexts, you focus exclusively on the content of what occurred. You believe your viewpoint is objective, rather than just a single and limited perspective of an event or experience. This type of thinking creates what Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck calls a fixed mindset, which is the belief that you cannot change, grow, or develop in specific areas. It is the belief that your skills, personality, and character are fixed traits that are innate and unchangeable. According to Dweck, the fixed mindset is an approach to life defined by the past. The opposite of a fixed mindset is what Dweck calls a growth mindset, which is the belief that you can change your traits and character. Having a growth mindset means your life is defined by the future and focused on what can change. I thought that was amazing. And that's exactly what happened to Steve Jobs. Now, he still had issues. He was not the best boss to work for. But I admire his drive for perfectionism. He had a drive for thinking of the future, thinking of what was ahead, and focusing on what was ahead, and being better every single time. He drove everybody to be better. Probably could have done it a little better. But the focus here is he took his failure, his trauma, and he made it something better. And I adapt this to myself. I completely see myself in this as well, where I look at my trauma from a few years ago and what happened to me, and I see clearly that I've been able to take from that trauma and build myself up and have a new vision and a new self-purpose and a new future thinking for myself, where I'm now looking at things that I'm going to do in the future in a new way, and taking a new approach and wanting to do things in some cases I've never done before, and in some cases I thought about for many years in my life and just said, I could never do that. I could never do that. And now I'm thinking, you know what? I think I can. I think I can do those things. Having your failure happen in your life gives you perspective. And having a chance to think of your future self and the things that you can do helps drive you in being better and gets you out of that murky mode of, that hurt. What now? And that's what I want you to take from what I've learned. Like I said, I admire Steve Jobs for being able to pick up the pieces and move on, and for being able to take something so raw that hurts so much and make something so amazing. We all can learn from this example, and we can all do the same thing. Many of us have a trauma, have an experience in our lives that has really brought us down, that has taken us down to a point where we hurt, or we just figure, what next? What now? We have to take that and go, you know what? I can do better. I can do something else and make that better than I ever did before with that failure. That's what I want us to take from that this week is think of your future self, think of your trauma, and think of how to take that trauma and push it to that future to get where you need to go. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me this week. And hey, if you missed last week's episode, it's right here. Take a look. It's right here for you. You can go out and watch that. And hey, there's another one right here for you that I want you to take a look at as well if you get a moment. And don't forget to subscribe and to like. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next week.